wonderful story explorers, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to journey to a little farm nestled in a green valley, where we'll meet a very special goose and learn a very important lesson. Are you ready? Let's begin our tale, called The Goose with the Golden Eggs. One bright and sunny morning, Jack went out to the barn to collect the eggs, just as he did every day. He checked the chicken coop first, and then he went over to the nest where their white goose usually laid her eggs. As he reached into the soft hay, his fingers touched something surprisingly heavy and smooth. It wasn't like a normal egg at all. He pulled it out, and his eyes grew wide with astonishment. There, in the palm of his hand, lay an egg that shimmered and shone with a brilliant, warm light. It was an egg made of pure, solid gold. He couldn't believe his eyes. He blinked and rubbed them, thinking he must be dreaming. But no, the egg was real. It felt heavy and cool in his hand, and it gleamed under the morning sun like a tiny, captured star. He rushed back to the cottage, his heart pounding with excitement. "Emma, Emma, come quickly! You won't believe what I found!" he shouted. Emma came running, her face full of concern. "What is it, Jack? Is everything all right?" Jack opened his hand to reveal the golden egg. Emma gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Oh, Jack, is it? Is it real?" Jack nodded, a huge grin spreading across his face. "It is. Our goose laid a golden egg." They held it up to the light, turning it over and over, mesmerized by its beauty. It was the most incredible thing they had ever seen. That day, they carefully took the golden egg to the town's market. The jeweler's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw it. He confirmed it was real gold and paid them a handsome sum of money, more than they had ever earned in a whole year. With the money, Jack and Emma bought new tools for the farm, warm clothes for the winter, and delicious food they had only ever dreamed of. That night, they celebrated with a feast, feeling like the luckiest people in the world. Their little goose had changed their lives. Soon, their simple, poor life was a distant memory. They bought a magnificent new house on a hill with grand rooms and fancy furniture. Their old, cozy cottage was left behind. They wore clothes made of the finest silk and ate from plates trimmed with gold. They no longer had to work on the farm. They hired people to do all the chores for them. Their days, which were once filled with the simple joys of nature and hard work, were now filled with something else entirely, counting their gold coins. At first, it was exciting. They would sit for hours in their grand new house, stacking coins and dreaming of all the other things they could buy. They bought a fancy carriage, sparkling jewels for Emma, and everything they could possibly imagine. But a strange thing started to happen. The more they had, the more they seemed to want. The joy they felt from the first golden egg started to fade, replaced by a restless, gnawing feeling. They stopped visiting the farm animals. They forgot the simple pleasure of watching the sunset or listening to the birds sing. Their conversations were no longer about their day or their dreams, but only about money. "Only one egg a day," Jack would grumble, pacing back and forth on their polished floors. "It's just too slow. Think of all the things we could buy if we had more, and faster." Emma, who once found happiness in a freshly baked loaf of bread, now agreed with him. "You're right, Jack," she'd say, looking at her jewel-covered fingers. "Waiting a whole day for just one egg is so tedious. Why can't the goose just give us all the eggs at once? Imagine how rich we would be then. We could buy a castle. We could have servants for our servants." The thought grew in their minds like a stubborn weed. Day and night, All they could think about was how to get more gold from the goose. The slow, steady treasure of one golden egg a day felt like a trickle when they dreamed of a flood. One evening, as they sat in their opulent dining room, surrounded by riches but feeling poorer in spirit than ever before, Jack slammed his fist on the table. "I'm saying," Jack leaned in, his voice a low whisper, "why wait for her to lay one egg a day? If we cut the goose open, we can take all the golden eggs at once. We'll be the richest people in the entire world, instantly. No more waiting." The thought was horrible, but the promise of immense, immediate wealth was too powerful for them to resist. The greed that had been growing in their hearts had finally taken over completely. They forgot that the goose was a living creature, the very source of their incredible fortune. All they could see was the mountain of gold they believed was hidden inside. So they made a dreadful decision. The very next morning, they didn't wait for the goose to lay her daily gift. Instead, with greedy hands and pounding hearts, they went to the barn. They took their special goose, the one that had lifted them from poverty to riches, and carried out their terrible plan. They were certain they were about to uncover a lifetime's worth of treasure. But as they looked inside, a chilling horror washed over them. There was no shimmering pile of golden eggs. There was no magical treasure chamber. The inside of the goose was just like any other goose. There was nothing special about it at all. In that deafening moment of silence, the truth crashed down on them with unbearable weight. The magic wasn't a stash of gold hidden inside the goose. The magic was the goose itself, the wonder of it creating one golden egg each day. And in their blind, impatient greed, they had destroyed it. They had killed the very source of their wealth. Standing there in the quiet barn, with nothing to show for their cruel act, Jack and Emma finally understood the depth of their mistake. The source of the golden eggs was gone forever. There would be no more shimmering gifts in the morning. Their dream of endless, instant riches had led them to an empty, heartbreaking reality. Their fortune was gone, and it was entirely their own fault. With heavy hearts and spirits lower than they had ever been, Jack and Emma had no choice but to sell their grand house, their fancy carriage, and all their fine things. They were left with just enough money to buy back their old, small cottage and a little bit of land. They returned to the simple life they had once known, but everything felt different now. The silence of the farm was no longer peaceful. It was a reminder of what they had lost. Every sunrise was a painful reminder that there would be no golden egg waiting for them. They were poor again, but this time, they were also filled with regret. They had learned the hardest lesson of all. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, something slowly began to change. They worked the land with their own hands again. They planted seeds and watched them grow. They baked their own bread and savored its simple, warm taste. One evening, as they sat on their small porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emma turned to Jack. "Do you remember," she said softly, "how happy we used to be just watching this?" Jack nodded, a sad smile on his face. "We had everything we needed, and we didn't even know it." They had learned that true wealth isn't about how much gold you have, but about the joy you find in the small, everyday things. They learned that greed can make you lose everything you hold dear, and that patience is a quiet, powerful treasure. The goose was gone, but its lesson remained. They found happiness again, not in a grand mansion, but in the warmth of the sun, the satisfaction of a day's work, and the company of each other. They understood, at last, that the real gold was not in the eggs, but in the gratitude for the daily miracle they once had. And that, my friends, is the story of the goose with the golden eggs. It reminds us to be thankful for the good things we have, big or small, and not to let greed for more make us lose sight of what truly matters. Patience and appreciation are treasures that can never be taken away. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures. See you next time.